You can listen to us on WLTH. In order for us to remain compliant with our governor mandated rules around public gathering. I'm happy that one of my colleagues, Councilwoman Ty Atkins, is here, as well as the City Council Attorney, Renzer Williams. My other colleagues, who hopefully you will be able to hear, are joining us via teleconference. We want to especially thank our IT and media teams who are helping us to coordinate today's meeting. Certainly hope that everyone is remaining healthy and remaining socially distant and staying home and leaving only when necessary so that we might stop the spread of COVID-19. I'm sure all of my colleagues join me as we pray for our city and our nation and world during this difficult time, but also take action to do our part to stop the spread of this very, very dangerous virus. At this time, we will have our opening prayer by Councilman at Large and Parliamentarian Ron Brewer. Is Councilman Brewer with us? I don't see Councilman Brewer on the line. So what we will do is move forward first with our Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will have our prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with life, liberty, and justice for all.
That's the 3 minutes.
Has Councilman Brewer joined us? I believe he's here.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer.
Repeat it. We didn't hear you.
Councilman Brewer, we'll now have you to give the prayer for our meeting.
Can you please repeat that?
We'll now have you give the prayer for our meeting.
Shall we pray? Father God, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your goodness, your mercy you have spared upon us, oh God. Lord, right now we ask that you bless us as we go forth in this meeting, oh God. Give us wisdom and knowledge, oh God, for your people, God. And Lord, we ask that you bless our city, our county, our state. We ask that you bless America. We ask that you bless this world right now, God. You know what we're dealing with, oh God. You know the sickness that have come upon your people right now, God. We ask that you will bless and that you will heal, deliver, and set free. In your son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you, Councilman Brewer, for opening us up in prayer. This time, our Deputy Clerk Reynolds will call the roll.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Here.
Councilman Brewer,
Here.
Councilwoman Brown, Councilwoman Brown, Councilwoman Caldwell,
Here.
Councilman Godwin. Councilman Godwin. Councilman Godwin.
We're not getting any sound from you.
Councilman Godwin.
Is Councilman Godwin muted?
Present.
Councilman Lay.
Here.
Councilman Weatherspoon. Councilman Weatherspoon. Councilman Williams.
Here.
President Brown. Present, there's 6 present, 3 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With 6 members present and 3 absent, we have a quorum to conduct the business of the Gary Common Council. Council members, before you are the minutes of our March 3rd, 2020 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Councilman Godwin, I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by, I believe, Councilwoman Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 6-0.
Can you restate that, please?
Mr. President, the vote is 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 6-0, the minutes of our March 3rd, 2020 meeting are approved. This time we'll have our council pending ordinances and resolutions on first reading.
CPO 2020-17, an ordinance establishing fund and department budget for the Gary City Court Second Chance Enhancement Program, sponsored by Judge Deidre L. Monroe, Gary City Court.
Finance.
CPO 2020-18, an ordinance approving the 2020 budget for the operating expenses of grants, donations, special revenue funds for the city of Gary for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2020, ended December 31st, 2020. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Finance. Thank you.
CPO 2020-19, an ordinance appropriating 2020 budget for the operating expenses of grants, donations, special revenue funds for the City of Gary Commission for Women for the fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2020, ending September 30th, 2020. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, and Hayes City Controller.
Finance.
CPO 2020-21, An ordinance, chapter 10, article 4, section 10-111, regarding public restrooms and gasoline services. Sponsored by Councilman William Godwin, First District.
Planning and Development.
Mr. President, and simultaneous ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. There are two ordinances. In the interest of time, obviously, we have not met for about a month now, and the Law Department has presented us with two ordinances, and they've asked us to suspend the rules and to add these ordinances to the agenda. The first one is CPO 2020-23, which is dealing with an emergency stay-home pay. And at this time, I would ask for a motion to suspend the rules to add CPO 2020-23 to tonight's agenda, as well as CPO 2020-24, which is
Muted.
approving of the grant of a use variance for petitioner Jerry Lockhart at 3044 West Ridge Road. And we want to add both of those by suspending the rules to tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to add CPO 2020-23 and CPO 2020-24 to tonight's agenda?
Mr. President, this is
Councilman Brewer.
I make a so move on both of those.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Brewer and seconded by Councilwoman Caldwell to add CPO 2020-23 and 2020-24 to tonight's agenda. Any question or discussion?
Hello?
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
I'm sorry, my screen just went off. I'm good.
Okay. Hearing and seeing no questions or discussion, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon, Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 6-0.
With a vote of 6-0, CPO 2020-23 and CPO 2020-24 are added to tonight's agenda. Madam Clerk, could we now read the additional items on first reading for tonight?
CPO 2020-23,
Continue, I'm sorry.
an ordinance amending ordinance 9299, 2020 salary ordinance, sponsored by Mayor Prince, City of Gary.
Finance.
CPO 2020-24, an ordinance approving the grant and use variance to a parcel zoned as residential. Petitioner is Jerry Lockhart, 3044 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
Mr. President, that is assignment of pending ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is Councilwoman Brown on the line?
I know she's supposed to have joined us.
Councilwoman Brown, are you on the line? Can you raise your hand on our GoToMeeting app? In the absence of Councilwoman Brown, we have about 4 items that have been referred to the Finance Committee. I'm a member of the Finance Committee, as well as Councilwoman Linda Barnes Caldwell. And So I think what we will do is, Councilwoman Caldwell, do you want to accept these items and call for our committee vote?
Yes.
Thank
The
you,
Finance
Councilwoman.
Committee has before it CPO 2020-17. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out. Councilman Godwin?
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the committee approves 2020-17 for reporting out. It also has before it CPO 2020-18, 2020-23. For the record, I approve this for reporting out. Councilman Godwin?
Yes.
Mr. President, for the record, the Finance Committee reports out 2020-18 and 2020-23.
We also have 2020-19.
Oh, I'm sorry. We would like to report out CPO 2020-19 for the record. I approve this for reporting out. Councilman Godwin?
Yes.
The Finance Committee reports out 2020-19.
Thank you, Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilman Brewer?
Thank you, Council President. The Planning and Development Committee has before CPO 2020-21. I approve this for reporting out. Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Witherspoon,
Yes.
thank you. Majority of the Planning Committee has approved CPO 2020-21 put out. The Planning Committee also has CPO 2024. I approve this to be reported out. Councilwoman Atkins
Yes.
and Councilman Witherspoon.
Yes.
Majority of the Planning Committee has approved CPO 2020-24.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. This time, we will have our special and select. Are there any council members who have special and select? I see that Councilman Lay has raised his hand. And just as a reminder, you have the raise hand button for those who are on the teleconference who would like to speak during special and select. So right now, I see Councilman Lay, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we now have 7 members at the council meeting. Not announced that Councilman Kofi Witherspoon is present.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. Point well taken. Deputy Clerk, have you acknowledged the presence of Councilman Witherspoon? We want to make sure he's added to the minutes.
Okay, I'll add him.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Councilman Lay. Councilwoman Atkins is recognized. Thank you. Did you all hear that, IT? We want to make sure that we're as much as possible hearable, if that's a word, I believe, to our Facebook and other audiences. So we have gotten some feedback that there's an echo. I'm not sure what that is, but as much as we can modify that as possible, that would be great. Do we need to take a 2-minute break? Is there a motion to recess for 2 minutes?
So moved, Mr. President.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Lay, Councilman Witherspoon, Councilman Witherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
With a vote of 7-0, we stand in recess. Thank you. Welcome back to the Garrett Common Council, April 7th, 2020 meeting. We apologize for our brief recess to correct some of our technology. We're all learning and getting better in an effort to serve you better so that you can hear and see us properly. We had already done our council pending ordinances on first reading, and we have begun our special and select. Councilman Lay spoke, and then Councilwoman Atkins acknowledged our technology issues. Are there any other members for special and select? Please remember to raise your hand and to keep your devices muted until you're prepared to speak. I acknowledge now Councilman Lay has his hand raised.
Mr. President, while we were trying to correct the technology, I had an opportunity to talk to Councilwoman Brown. For some reason, she was knocked off the air and cannot get back. She was knocked off somewhere around the time of the reading of the ordinances. So it appears she will not be able to come on, but we did discuss 2020-12. So
Okay.
those are my comments at this point.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. And just to confirm with our IT team, is Councilwoman Brown on or not on?
I am not on. Can you hear me?
Oh, you are on. We hear you now. Welcome, Councilwoman Brown.
I'm sorry.
And we're live on Facebook and TV and everywhere.
I
All right.
hear you, but I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, I hear you.
Okay.
I hear you, Councilwoman. All right. Any other members for special and select? Is Councilman Lay raising his hand again? I think that was by accident. Any other members for special and select? All right. Seeing none, we will now move. I think Councilman Lay is recognized.
The clerk should acknowledge we have now 9 members present.
I don't think we have 9. We probably have 8.
Hey, I'm sorry. We now have.
Okay. So Deputy Clerk Reynolds, did you get that?
Yes.
Okay, we acknowledge the additional presence of Councilwoman Brown. So we have 8 members present. All right. And just confirming, no one else for special and select. I know that we're raising our hands. All right, thank you all very much. At this time, we will move to council pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final reading. I'll remind you, my colleagues, that we did add CPO 2020-23, as well as CPO 2020-24 to our agenda. Now, typically we do the third and final first, and then we go to the second reading. But if we're adding these items, if we're suspending the rules to add these items to be voted on all 3 readings tonight, Attorney Williams, I want to make sure I do this appropriately. Should we wait, or should we do them now as part of third and final?
It would be appropriate to do them on third and final. There would first have to be a motion to suspend the rules to pass on all 3 readings.
Thank you, Attorney Williams. Is there a motion to suspend the rules to consider CPO 2020-23 as well as CPO 2020-24 to be considered tonight for third and final reading?
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
you would do that once you come back before second reading. We will go ahead and suspend the rules at that time. We will move, at this time, we should be moving to third and final if there's nothing else on special select.
Okay. I got you. Thank you, Thank you, our parliamentarian and Councilman Brewer, for correcting us on that. So what we'll do is proceed with 2020-17 and go through all the others that are already on the agenda. And then when we get to second reading, we'll take up the motion to suspend on 2020-23 and 24. So we are looking at CPO 2020-12. So Madam Clerk, council pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final reading.
CPO 2020-12, an ordinance approving the reorganization and renaming of various executive departments of the City of Gary and amending salary and operating budgets in connection therewith. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Brown is recognized. Councilwoman Brown is recognized.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
just a point of order. For Councilwoman Brown, you have to make sure that you unmute your phone each time. I know she wasn't on the call when we discussed that, but they're muting us, and we have to unmute ourselves to talk.
Right. So Councilwoman Brown, make sure you unmute yourself so that you can respond to us. Otherwise, we won't hear you. Councilwoman Brown? Well, what I'm going to do in the interest of time is to, Madam Clerk, if we could move to CPO, I think these are all actually in the Finance Committee. Wait a second. So Councilwoman Caldwell is recognized for CPO 2020-12.
I'm sorry, I'm
Don't forget
recognized.
that.
What do you mean?
Well,
What'd
can
you
you
say?
hear me now?
Oh,
Oh,
Councilwoman Brown is recognized. Thank you.
I move that CPO 2020-12 be moved back to the Finance Committee.
Is
Second.
there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded to move CPO 2020-12 back to the Finance Committee. Any questions or discussion? Is your hand raised, Councilman Weatherspoon?
No, it shouldn't
Any
be.
questions? Okay, it is, but that's okay. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
To enable audio control, please enter your audio PIN followed by the pound or hash sign.
It's set.
If you do not
Councilman Weatherspoon.
pound or hash. Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an attendee in listen-only mode.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman Brewer is recognized.
someone must have another device going on. We're having the same problem here, and the clerk is trying to get some answers.
Right, so make sure you only have, you can't use both your computer and your phone. You can only be on one device. I'm going to ask the clerk to restart the vote on CPO 2020-12. And just as a
Councilwoman
reminder,
Atkins.
this is, go ahead.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon, Councilman Weatherspoon.
He's, looks like he's not attentive, so he's on another device is what I'm assuming because the button of not attentive is showing up. So let's just continue the vote.
Councilman Williams. Councilman Williams.
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
I'm going to keep.
Try
President
Councilman Weatherspoon again.
Weatherspoon. Councilman Weatherspoon.
He's probably muted. Someone keeps muting us.
So you have to unmute yourself to speak. That's how we're avoiding the echo. So everyone is going to be muted, and in order to speak, you have to physically unmute yourself.
believe it.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Organizer just unmuted me, so he may have to do it for Councilman Witherspoon as well.
Let's manually unmute Councilman Weatherspoon, please. He's not on the call. Please proceed, Madam Clerk.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
I think the vote will be 7-0, the Attorney Williams, because only 7 people voted.
Oh, I'm sorry. The vote is 7-0.
Thank you. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-12 is referred back to the Finance Committee.
CPO 2020-15, an ordinance authorizing the city to make temporary interfund loan to the Fire Pension Fund and Police Pension Fund, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Councilwoman Brown is recognized. Please unmute yourself, Councilwoman Brown.
I'm sorry, I move for passage of CPO 2020-15 on third and final reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
We'll now have our overview at this time, but I do want to acknowledge a potential procedural issue. The controller is no longer, okay. Arlene Colvin will do the overview. Please proceed. Okay. 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 Please proceed, Attorney Colvin. Is Attorney Colvin on the call? I don't think so. Excuse me? Okay, Attorney Colvin is also going to probably be doing the overview for CPO 2020-16.
Mr.
I'm thinking, so Councilman Brewer.
Yes, Mr. President, is there anyone else from the administration that's on that can do the overview or we can keep moving?
Let's see. Corporation Counsel McCain, I'll defer to you, or the mayor is also on. If either of you would like to do the overview, or what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chair, this is Trent McCain, Corporation Counsel. I'm checking to see if the Chief of Staff is on the call and having problems. I will defer to the mayor for his decision on whether or not we should present the overview at this time.
Thank you, Attorney McCain.
Hello.
Mayor Prince. Oh, I was great. All right. Attorney Colvin is with us to give the overview for CPO 2020-15.
I'm sorry, I was on my call and it didn't work from the phone.
Okay, no problem. We're all being patient. and flexible, so thank you.
Okay.
It's
CPO 2020-15 is an ordinance providing a interfund loan.
excuse me, Mr. President, point of
1
order.
second, Councilman Brewer, I think is recognized.
Yes, Ms. Colvin, is there another device or anything that's up around you? We're getting a lot of feedback now since you're on.
Does this help?
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Because I was on my phone at first.
Okay, thank you.
CPO 2020-15 is an ordinance providing an interfund loan from the general fund to the police and fire pensions. The total amount of the loan is $3 million, 1.5 million going to the fire pension, 1.5 million going to the police pension. I ask the council to approve this ordinance.
Thank you, Attorney Colvin. Questions or discussion from members of the council? I recognize Councilman Williams. I think that may be an error. I recognize Councilwoman Caldwell.
That's an error.
Okay, thank you. Any other members, questions for Attorney Colvin? Councilman Brewer is recognized.
Yes, Mr. President. I had asked inside the committee meeting about a TAW that was taken out. I did receive the information that a TAW was taken out in the end of December there, but I did not receive a cash flow, what we're looking for as far as cash flow inside the city of Gary.
Attorney Colvin is recognized.
Councilman Brewer, I sent a spreadsheet as well. You did not receive that?
I didn't receive the spreadsheet. I did
The
receive.
question that was asked of me at the finance committee meeting was, what were the cash balances of the funds at the end of 2019? And I provided a Excel spreadsheet to the finance committee.
No,
And you
no,
were on-
no. My question was, where were we at financially at that point in time inside of 2020? Because I wasn't sure.
in
if
the
we
in
had
the
passed
pension fund,
TAW.
or I'm
No,
sorry,
no.
in the pension fund?
The general fund. That was the general fund.
Oh no, sir, I don't recall you asked me that question. I'm sorry.
No problem. But if I can
I can
receive
provide
that,
that information.
okay, no problem. But I do understand about this needs to go back into those funds, and I am okay with that. But that was my question from the committee. So I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Let's see here. No one else has their hand raised, so hoping that there's no other questions or discussion for Attorney Colvin. Assuming none.
Is it
roll
Councilman Godwin?
call.
Councilman Godwin?
Councilman Williams is recognized.
I'm not sure who the organizer is, but they are muting me throughout the entire meeting.
Yes,
I
you will
can't even
always be
unmute
muted.
myself.
You can
I
only
can't
speak
even
when you
unmute
unmute
myself.
yourself.
Yeah.
What do you say?
I can't even unmute myself.
Okay, we hear you now.
Okay. I just wanted to let you know that, Councilman.
All right, thank you. Right, no other members for questions on CPO 2020-15. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Witherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-15 passes and is so ordered.
CPO 2020-16, An ordinance amending the budget for Lake County Fetal Infant Mortality Review Grant, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller Reese Radney, Northwest Healthy Start.
Councilwoman Brown is recognized. Councilwoman Brown is recognized. You'll have to unmute yourself. Councilwoman Caldwell is recognized.
Okay. I think I'm okay.
Oh, okay, Councilwoman Brown, you're here, you're with us. Thank you.
CPO 2020-16 on third and final reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yes. It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Caldwell. Overview at this time.
CPO
Attorney Colvin.
2020-16 is an ordinance amending the budget for the Lake County Fetal Infant Mortality Review Grant. That organization has awarded dollars to the Northwest Indiana Health Cooperative in the amount of $36,777, excuse me. The grant will be used to analyze the circumstances, clinical and social factors surrounding infant deaths before the age of 1. And the grant will allow for the development of community solutions to prevent future infant deaths. The funds are going to be used for a part-time social worker to undertake this work. I'd like the council to please approve this ordinance.
Thank you, Attorney Colvin. Any questions or discussion for this ordinance? I'm giving extra time because I know people are using technology here and people might be fiddling with their devices.
Mr.
Seeing
President.
none, Councilman Brewer is recognized.
Yes, just a point of order for the public, and I don't think we gave an overview far as how we're using this technology and letting them know that during this time there is no public portion that can be, invited to this portion here, what we normally would go into. So I just want to put that out for the public information also too.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. I briefly mentioned at the beginning that the public, I don't know if you may not have been on the call yet, but the public wouldn't be with us. That's all right. But it's good to remind us because we're on a new Facebook video now. So many people will not have heard that. So thank you. But we are in compliance with the open door law. The governor has modified it in order for us to make sure that our gatherings don't have more than 10 people. We want to be an example for the city. So as I said earlier, we are live on Channel 4. We're live on Facebook as well as radio WLTH and 88.7. And so we're doing our very best to make sure that you see what we do. And of course, there's no statutory obligation for members of the public to speak at our meetings, only for the meetings to be viewable. But in an effort to have good democratic engagement, this body has historically had public comment, but there will be no public comment tonight. Any other questions or discussion on CPO 2020-16?
My hand is raised, Mr.
Councilman Lay is recognized.
Yeah, we shouldn't interrupt at the beginning of a vote for a point of order. That is absolutely not the proper place to do this. In other words, the vote should continue. In other words, you had explained it at the outset. So we're well into the meeting now. So we should have votes. It could have been more a point of personal privilege, but we were not violating any rule at the time. One order or rule being violated.
Thank you, Councilman Lay, for that parliamentary correction. I just wanted to respond to Councilman Brewer's concern because people are viewing this online and will have missed the overview we gave at the beginning about the technology. But I certainly respect and appreciate your concerns around the continuity of flow in our vote following the overview on a matter. Seeing no other questions or discussion, Councilwoman Caldwell? Or is that an error? I think it's an error. Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Moore,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown, Councilwoman Brown,
Councilwoman Brown is no longer on the call, so please continue.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-16 is passed and is so ordered.
Mr. President, that ends pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council pending ordinances and resolutions on second reading.
CPO 2020-17, an ordinance establishing a new fund and department budget for the Gary City Court Second Chance Enhancement Program, sponsored by Judge Deidre L. Monroe, Gary City Court.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Caldwell is recognized.
the Finance Committee, would like to, schedule a committee meeting for April the 14th at 5:30 and a public hearing April the,
21st.
yes, the 21st at 6 p.m. Oh, we would
And
like
just for
to,
clarification, it will be a webinar or it will be an online meeting. So,
okay, a
or
webinar.
teleconference.
Okay,
Thank
we're doing this on second reading.
Yes,
Okay.
it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Atkins. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-17 passes on second reading with a online teleconference meeting to be held on April 14th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing on April 21st, 6 o'clock p.m. Also most likely via online or teleconference.
CPO 2020-18, an ordinance appropriating 2020 budgets for the operating expenses of grants, donations, special revenue funds for the city of Gary for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2020, ending December 31st, 2020. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Caldwell is recognized.
Mr. President, was that 18? Okay, that's finance also. Okay,
Yes.
Finance Committee moves for passage of CPO 2020. You said 18? Can I
Yes,
do them
that's
all?
correct.
Okay,
You
let me do
actually
them
did.
all at one time. Yeah, 20,
Yep.
we move for passage on the second reading of CPO 2018, 2020, 19, and 2020, 23. with,
We're gonna hold up on 23 and 19. I think the issue is that they need to be read out. Attorney Williams is reminding me. So
Okay.
let's have the clerk to read out 19. Let's deal with 23 separately, but read out 19 as well, and then we'll do it collectively. Madam Clerk?
CPO 2020-19, an ordinance approving 2020 budgets for the operating expenses of grants, donations, special revenue funds for the City of Gary Commission for Women for fiscal year beginning April the 1st, 2020, ending September 30th, 2020. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Coswell is recognized.
muted. Okay, we move, the Finance Committee moves for passage on second reading of CPO 2020-19. With,
And 18.
And 18, yes. With, committee meeting on April the 14th and then April you said 21st?
Yes.
Both on webinar.
It's been moved. Is there a second? The time of the meeting will be 5:30 p.m. for April 14th. Is that correct? And 6 o'clock p.m. for the public hearing.
Yes.
Thank you. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconds.
It's been moved and seconded by council members Atkins and Lay. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell, Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams, Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, both CPO 2020-18 and CPO 2020-19 are passed on second reading.
CPO 2020-21, an ordinance amending Chapter 10, Article 4, Section 10-111 regarding public restrooms in gasoline service stations, sponsored by Councilman Godwin, 1st District.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
I move for passage on second reading of CPO 2020-21, a planning committee meeting April the 14th at 5 p.m. and a public meeting, it would be a public hearing, but April the 21st at 6 p.m. webinar, for both of them.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-21 passes on second reading with a committee meeting to be held via webinar online teleconference at 6 o'clock p.m. on April 14th, 2020, and a public hearing to be held in the same manner as aforementioned on April 21st, 2020 at 6 o'clock p.m. We have, as I mentioned earlier, when we added these two items to the agenda, both CPO 2020-23 and CPO 2020-24 in the Finance and Planning Committees respectively. At this time, there has been a request by the sponsors of those ordinances to suspend the rules to pass these on all three readings. So we're going to do these separately. Just as a procedural reminder, we simply need a simple majority of the council members to approve these measures to be considered on all three readings. And in order for them to pass on all three readings, there must be a unanimous vote of the members present. For that reason, because we've had some council members drop on and off via technology, I want to be especially sure that we know when we're talking about a unanimous vote of all those present, who's actually present. So what I'd like for the clerk to do before we consider these is to do another roll call just to ensure we know who's actually with us. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Here.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes. Here.
Councilwoman Brown, Councilwoman Caldwell,
Here.
Councilman Lay,
Here.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Here.
Councilman Williams,
Here.
President Godwin.
Present.
There are 7 present, 2 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With 7 members present, we have a quorum to conduct the business of the Garrett Common Council. As it relates to CPO 2020-23, Councilwoman Caldwell is recognized, and basically there's a question: is there a motion to suspend the rules?
To read it.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules to pass this measure on all three readings? We'll have the clerk to first read it.
CPO 2020-23, an ordinance amending ordinance 9299, 2020 salary ordinance, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Council will now have an overview by Attorney Colvin.
President, point of order.
Councilman Lay is recognized.
The manner in which you explained is in reverse, is incorrect. In order to pass on all three readings, you must have it unanimous. Then you need a supermajority to pass. You reverse the order of what you said. In other words, if there are 7 votes to pass on all three readings on this vote coming up, you must have 7. On the 6th one, you must have a supermajority, which would be 6.
Okay, so
First of all, this does not include the clerk, does not include the council, and it does not include the city judge. So why are we passing to pay only one part of the executive branch, and we're not paying our own councilman staff? We're not paying the clerk's staff, and we're not paying the judge's staff. I think it's premature to do this when we're going to have all these other departments or branches of government not being paid. I'm absolutely believe that everyone should be paid. I don't have a question about that. But I think we do them all at once, not piecemeal.
So I'll let Attorney Pohl respond, but I believe, and please correct me, that the employers you're talking about would not be negatively affected by having to work from home. But I think this may more closely relate to those who have to be physically present in order to do their jobs. That is to say, the job can't be done unless one is physically present. But Attorney Pohl, please correct me if I'm wrong and respond to Councilman Lay's concerns.
Absolutely. What this ordinance pertains to is in a situation where somebody is either showing up for work or they're working from home, they're being paid accordingly. And that would be in compliance with all, fair wage laws and anything like that. If you're doing the work, you're going to get paid. This pertains only to those individuals that if you are staying at home and you are not working, not performing a function for the city. As to Attorney Lay's position on this or his issue with this, it was my understanding that this would apply to all city employees, and it does not differ. He's correct. It doesn't necessarily parcel out or specifically name the clerk's office employees or the council employees, but I was under the impression that because it was applicable to all employees paid by the city, that's how this would apply. But I mean, I'll leave it at that. If there's any other discussion that needs to be had on that, or if this needs to be amended, we'd obviously take that under consideration as well.
Councilor Lay is recognized.
Okay, read paragraph D and E. In other words, to me, it's quite clear that the judge, nor the clerk, nor the council is making a decision. In paragraph D, at the very end, it says the mayor or her designee. The mayor is making a determination here solely. Again, I agree with the payment. I just believe if we're going to do it, we should do it for the entire city of Gary. If the State Board of Accounts is asking for it, they have got to be asking for the entire city. They can't be asking for just simply the executive branch and not the legislative branch and other elected officials. I do not believe this ordinance covers that. Now, you may believe that. That's why it may be important to determine what, and I couldn't find it when I was looking it up because I wanted to listen, what the procedural question is. I think that's going to become very important. See?
So what I will say is that when I look at section 1 of this ordinance, it says that the salary schedule, quote, that the salary schedules which are attached here to and made a part hereof, which is marked for purposes of identification as salary schedules for the city of Gary calendar year 2020, are approved by the Common Council of the city of Gary. So I suppose, to Councilman Lay's point, is that the particular ordinance that is being amended does not cover the judge and the clerk's office. And I would assume that those salary schedules would be attached to this particular amendment of this ordinance. Is that correct, Attorney Pohl?
It covers everything that was in the original ordinance, the original salary ordinance, which is the 9299. So this is applicable to only those, to all of those salaries that were part of that schedule.
And do you anticipate? Go ahead.
What I would mention as well is what this is essentially referring to throughout the rest of it is obviously the mayor has the authority to declare an emergency, and when that happens, in a situation where there's an emergency, all city all city facilities are shut down. All of these employees, the clerk's office, the council, that all is affected. So when those individuals are being sent home, and I'm nearly positive that all those salaries are part of that ordinance. I guess I would have to go back and double check, but I'm fairly certain that they are.
Let me ask you this, 2 questions. One, I just want to confirm that the decision we make tonight, does it affect, I believe there's a pay period Friday, is that correct, of this week?
I believe it's next Friday. The next Friday is the actual, when the checks would be cut, that would cover the last 2 weeks prior.
Okay. Well, I would like, and I guess my second question is there an issue in terms of the type of employees in the clerk's office and in the judges, under the judge, that would need a similar amendment to the ordinance to include them? Do we expect there to be workers who also are in the same situation.
I don't know if I'm following the question.
So what I'm saying is that I think Councilman Lay is saying that we don't want to do this piecemeal. That is to say, if the judge and the clerk's respective offices were not originally covered under ordinance 9299, which is what we're amending, then we would likewise need to do a similar amendment for the particular ordinance under which those salaries fall. But if in fact those salaries are under 9299, then we would not need to do that. This measure itself, by amendment, would include everybody that Councilman Lay is concerned about.
I mean, yes, to answer the question, yes. I mean, if they weren't covered under that ordinance, then understandably so, yes, they would need to, in order to comply with the SBA. I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, right now, but I've always been under the impression that 9299 covered all the employees, all salaries that were covered under, or that are paid out by the city of Gary.
So what I would say is that we don't have another council meeting until the 21st, which is after the next pay period. As much as possible, I certainly want to make sure we follow the correct State Board of Accounts protocol in terms of how we pay people. Now, Attorney Williams whispered in my ear that we could ratify this at our next meeting. That is to say that the department has the authority, I presume, to do this, and that we could ratify what they had done. I just think that's always a little risky, because what if we don't ratify it? And we have made the payment, should there be a council member who disagrees. On the other hand, I'm very sensitive to the fact that we're in a global pandemic, and I would hate for a procedural matter to stop folks from getting paid. And if we need to add others later, I have no problem doing that. And I would hope that other council members wouldn't have a problem doing that. But you know, these are very extraordinary times. But I certainly respect the question. It seems like there is a lack of clarity around whether folks are covered under 9299. It looks like Chief of Staff Colvin, did you raise your hand?
I did.
Okay.
The clerk and the council, the clerk, the council, and the judge's salaries are in the entire salary budget.
Thank you. I think that clarifies the issue. Councilman Lay is recognized.
Okay, take a look at Indiana 30 code, Indiana 36-4-6-13. Indiana code 36-4-6-13. It will indicate to you the supermajority of the 2/3 after a unanimous consent.
Attorney Williams is recognized.
Yes. What Attorney Lay is referencing is actually in 36-3-4-12, subsection A, and it does read, for the benefit of those who don't have it before you, a 2/3 vote of all the elected members after a unanimous consent of the members present to consider an ordinance is required to pass an ordinance of legislative body on the same day or at the same meeting in which it is introduced. So, in fact, Attorney Lay is correct procedurally. The first vote, however, is the vote that I referenced that requires a unanimous vote to consider it on all three. And following that vote, it would require a 2/3 vote to pass.
Great.
Thank you, Attorney Williams, and thank you, Councilman Lay. So, Councilman Lay is recognized.
So unready. In other words, they're now saying the mayor is going to make a decision whether the clerk employee is going to be paid, whether the council's employees are going to be paid, and whether the judge's employees are going to be paid. That means we've shifted the authority from the council to the mayor.
That might be me.
Okay. So is there an amendment proposed to, because I don't want to leave here tonight without taking up this measure. I think the issue is far too sensitive for us not to fix it. Again, these are very extraordinary times. Is there an amendment you would propose to this ordinance that would satisfy your very reasonable concerns about the power of this body in relationship to the power of the executive as it relates to the payment of salaries?
Yes, let me just look. Can I have a moment, please? Real quick?
Yes, absolutely. So while you're looking at that, are there any other questions or discussion from members of the council? Is Vanessa, what's her hand is up? That must be her.
Okay, I believe if we amended or paragraph D and E at a minimum by including employees of the court, let me see, where we're talking about, it says city officials, the employees of the court. And in fact, that I would assume we would have to authorize the judge and also the clerk to make the decision whether to pay the employees that are off. They would be responsible to make sure they're not violating this ordinance. I could go
And the
along.
council president, as it relates to the council employees.
That's fine. That's fine. Any way you can insert something into D and E would satisfy me. And I go back to what, then of course, if we have to amend, I believe Attorney Williams suggested it, we could do it at another meeting. We'll go ahead and pay everyone. And then the state board of accounts must see this as an emergency also, even though it's a fairly incomplete ordinance. Let's just insert them in. Yes. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so basically what we're saying is that the city judge in section D, the city judge, the city clerk, and the council president would have the authority over their respective departments to determine who would be paid under this emergency stay-at-home pay ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes, I will agree to that. I will agree to that.
Thank you. Clerk Reynolds, do you understand the amendments that are being proposed for CPO 2020-23?
Could you restate the amendment, please?
The amendment is as follows. CPO 2020-23, section 2, paragraph D is amended to include that the respective, I think actually it should be paragraph G, because it says during an emergency, the mayor in his or her sole discretion may pay full or partial salary. So I believe it's paragraph G of section 2 would be amended to state that the mayor, as well as the city judge, city clerk, and council president shall have control over their respective departments to pay full or partial salary, et cetera, as the ordinance, the amendment to the ordinance already reads.
You would also
Is
have
that
to
clear?
do that with F also, wouldn't you? Look at that.
No, yes, I believe so. The other option is to basically state that wherever mayor appears, the respective department heads, that is the city clerk, city judge, and council president, shall also have the same power. Perhaps that could be added as subparagraph or paragraph J, or everywhere. We could add to the document that wherever mayor is in the document, the respective department head, city clerk, city judge, council president shall have the same authority.
I agree.
Thank you. So there's a motion to amend CPO 2020-23 as aforementioned. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Councilwoman Atkins. Any question or discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
I heard you use the word, where may, and you used the word shall. Are you requesting that shall be replaced may? I heard you reference that earlier.
So sure, just to be clear, we know there's a distinction between may and shall, but wherever there is mayor, the respective city clerk, respective department head, that is city clerk, city judge, and council president shall have the same responsibility. If I said may, I apologize.
No,
The
may.
movement, are you still
May is
okay with?
adopted, yes.
Absolutely. The movement is, I believe, okay with that, Councilman Lay?
Yes, what you just said.
All right, and thank you. And Councilwoman Atkins, are you still seconding?
Yes.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
2/3.
Councilman Lay,
Yes,
Councilman Weatherspoon, Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Mhm.
Councilman Williams, Councilman Williams,
Please continue, Madam Clerk.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, this is Trent McCain, Corporation Counsel.
Attorney McCain,
Mr. Pohl and I have had our hands up, and I'm sure you
I'm sorry.
just may have missed it. We didn't want to interrupt the vote of the council. We wanted to point out that the verbiage should not be department heads, but rather the branches of government, legislative, executive, judicial, and the fourth would be the clerk. Because
Okay.
department heads themselves cannot make that
More broad.
particular decision.
Absolutely.
Mr. President,
Yeah, Councilman Lay is recognized.
there's city government is statutorily, there are only two legislative. I was supposed to say the office of the clerk, the president of the council, wherever you find the name.
Okay, so
Local government, it's statute to the executive. We create city court, so it's only two things. Legislative and executive branch.
So let's restate the motion that wherever, quote, mayor, unquote, is in CPO 2020-23, the city clerk, the city judge, and the council president shall have the same authority.
Agreed.
Thank you. Councilman Lay has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
No
Councilwoman
objection from
Atkins
the
has seconded.
administration.
Wait, excuse me? Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk. Who's,
This is Attorney Paul. I was just going to point out the only section that may not be applicable to interchange mayor with the others would be in the very beginning of section 2, where it's talking about the declared emergency portion of it. I decided to go and strike out everywhere mayor and everybody because the mayor declared emergency.
So that, I think you're saying the first line of section 2.
That's correct.
I believe it says executive. It does not say the word mayor. But I do see where you say, as part of such declaration, the mayor may provide that employees directed to refrain from coming to work receive pay. So I think because it says executive, that shouldn't be a problem with the motion.
That's correct. I just wanted to make sure everybody's on the same with that.
Absolutely. Any other questions or Attorney McCain? I see a hand up.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll take it down.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Councilman Lay? Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yeah.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams, Councilman Williams, Councilman Williams, President Godwin.
Yes.
The vote is 6-0.
With a vote of 6-0, CPO 2020-23 is amended as aforementioned in the motion. At this time, I want to remind council persons that to Councilman Lay's point and to Attorney Williams' clarification, in order to suspend the rules to consider this measure on all 3 readings, unanimous vote of members present is required in order to pass this measure. Issues. IT department. All right, can you hear me now? Okay. Okay. So, IT department, are you all with us? So there's a delay. I just want to make sure that everybody's hearing what I'm saying. I know those present are hearing me earlier than those on the line, and I'm getting a slow network connection notice on the computer here. So I'm going to turn off the webcam. I think that will improve the, okay, it's better now? Okay. So, again, I was just reminding everybody that in order to consider this measure on all 3 readings, we have to have a unanimous vote of the members present. And in order to pass the measure on all 3 readings, we have to have 2/3 majority of the members present to vote in the affirmative. Because we have had several council members due to technology issues drop on and off, I want to make sure we get this absolutely right. And so if we're going to vote to approve this amended ordinance, I want the Madam Clerk to call the roll.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Here.
Councilman Brewer,
Here.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay, Councilman Lay,
Listen, President. Councilman Lay,
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Present.
Councilman Williams, Councilman Williams,
Councilman Williams, you're unmuted.
Councilman Williams,
Please proceed.
President Godwin.
Present.
Mr. President, there are 7 present.
So there are 7 members present, which is a quorum to conduct the business of the Gary Common Council. Now, here's what I want to make sure, and please correct me, Attorney Williams, or anyone else, if I'm wrong. Only those members who have just acknowledged that they are present should be voting on this matter, since the unanimous vote of the members present is required in order to add this on third and final. So at this point, is there a motion to add CPO 2020-23 as amended to be considered on third and final on all 3 readings?
So moved. Attorney Lane.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second,
Second.
Councilman Brewer.
It's been moved and properly seconded by council members Atkins, Brewer, and Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call again of the 7 members who were most previously acknowledged present.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, there is unanimous vote of the council to consider on all 3 readings CPO 2020-23 as amended. This time, you will need to actually vote to approve CPO 2020-23 as amended. Is there a motion to approve CPO 2020-23 as amended?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Been moved by Councilman Brewer. Is there a second?
Second.
Been seconded by Councilwoman Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? We're going to check and make sure. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Lay, Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-23 as amended passes on all 3 readings and is so ordered. We also
CPO
have, I'm sorry, continue. I'm sorry.
CPO 2020-24, an ordinance approving the grant of a use variance to a parcel zoned as residential. Petitioner is Jerry Lockhart, 3044 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Thank you. Councilman Brewer is recognized.
I move for passage on, I ask to suspend the rules and move for passage for all 3 readings.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Again, we have to have unanimous vote of the members present. So, Madam Clerk, please only call the names of those who were most previously acknowledged present.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
President.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-24 is added to the agenda to be considered on all three readings. At this time, we will have our overview, which I believe Attorney Poe is providing. We can't hear you too clearly.
Okay, I'm sorry. This ordinance is being presented as a grant, or as a request for the granting of a use variance to Jerry Lockhart at 3044 Westridge Road to establish a car lot. That lot is currently zoned as B3. Mr. Lockhart appeared before the BZA, the Board of Zoning Appeals, on January 16th, 2020. And at that meeting, the BZA made all 5 findings of facts that are required by the code section 36-4-918.4. At this time now, we are asking that the council and approve the favorable recommendation of the use variance to allow that parcel to be used as a used car lot. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions or discussions among council members? Whose district is this property in?
That's the question.
This is 3044 West Ridge Road.
3044
West Ridge Road. I believe it's the 5th district.
I believe so.
And I wanted to make sure you had, I know we're obviously not going through our typical procedures. We did want to, we know this has been an extraordinary time, and because we haven't met, this gentleman's ability to move forward has been curtailed. But I certainly wanted to give you the opportunity to express any questions or concerns that you may have.
Oh, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, that looks like that's at the corner of Ridge Road and maybe Chase Street. It used to be an old pizza place or something, because I just punched it up. So, I don't know, you talking about a car lot? How many cars? You know, it's hard when I don't have paperwork in front of me and I haven't done the research on it. And when did he come to the council with this, or to the building, or who, zoning?
Yes, this is for the BZA on January 16th, 2020. Mr. Lockhart had provided the BZA with an overview of this lot. I believe at the time he said that there would be roughly, he could fit 20 vehicles on the lot. But in fact, Mr. Lockhart had contacted the council today and found out that there was going to be this meeting. He had stated that if there were any questions, he would be able to answer them. I could be him on the phone, see if he'll call into the council's number at the 1513 number as well. I don't think that's gonna work.
I'm looking at the lot right now, and my biggest concern is I have the same problem going on right now at the corner of Ridge Road and Burr. Those people came to us and said only so many cars, and I've sent code enforcement down there a couple of times because it's vehicles on top of each other just piled up. Maybe 100 cars on this small lot that looks like about the same size as this. So BZ said that they approved this, huh? And I'm not getting a good view right now because, like I said, I'm just looking at what I'm looking at now on my telephone, so.
Were letters sent to the nearby residents or other property owners?
There was, yes, there were. All the proper notice that was required by state law did go out, all within the 400-foot radius of the of the location.
Were there any objections?
I do not believe there were any responses or objections. Hold on one second. I'll double check that real quick, but I'm almost certain that there were not. I will.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
let me just say in the past history, what we have done, we have put conditions. No one has been back before the city council of any violations, or I don't think any council member has requested for any of the petitioners to come back before us with any violation, but we have put those conditions in place to revisit a business within a year if we saw that there was problems, where we can reconsider those variants that we passed. But I know, as far as I've been on the council, I haven't seen us revisit any of them. Now, there probably are several that we probably should call back, but we haven't done it since I've been on the council.
That's a very good point, and perhaps, you know, this is something we might even make it in 3 months or 6 months. It could be conditionally approved today, but in a 3 or 6 month period, be revisited.
Yes.
How does that sound to you, especially the chair of the committee, Councilman Brewer, but also the district council person, Councilwoman Caldwell?
You said 6 months. 6 months sounds good.
Okay. Attorney Pohl, how do you feel about that?
That would be fine. That would be okay. I will say that in going back and reviewing, there was one remonstration. It was a common remonstration, which was essentially the concerned citizen stating that there's enough car lots in the city. So just
Gotcha.
there was a remonstration.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer?
I would just add that we would put in a petition 6 months to a year. So just in case the petitioner does not get up and going, I know I've seen a lot of times the car lots come in, a lot of times they're trying to open up around tax season. If we do a year, that will put us way ahead of tax season for next year too. So we can definitely see how this business operates outside of the 6 months also too.
Okay, I always say so when we say within a year, that means at any point next week, right? We could revisit it. Is that what, that's essentially what okay, so that makes sense to me. Do you want to make a motion to amend CPO 2020-24 to insert that provision of a conditional approval reviewable within 12 months of passage?
Yes. So I'll make a motion
Is there
to amend, as outlined as the president just have detailed to us, to amend 2020-24.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Caldwell. Any questions or discussions? Councilwoman Atkins is recognized. Oh, Councilwoman Atkins is recognized. She needs to be able to speak.
So I just want, Mr. Chair, some clarification. So if we do instate the motion to do a review within 6 to 12 months, can you explain how that works and whose responsibility it will be to bring it to the table for review?
Again, I stand corrected if wrong, but my understanding would be that any council person could bring it to the body, and specifically to the Planning and Development Committee, I think would be the appropriate place to start to reconsider this approval. Attorney Williams, any other council members have a different perspective on that, or the Corporation Council? Attorney Williams is recognized. Attorney Williams?
Yes. As Councilman Brewer spelled out earlier, and you just recently, that would be the proper procedure. Any council member could bring it to the floor of the body or the request of the appropriate chair, and only then will it be reviewed. It won't automatically come back. It would only come back upon the request of a council member.
Thank you, Attorney Williams. That's satisfied. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, is that, looks like somebody was about to start. Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Godwin. I'm sorry, President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
President, 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-24 is amended as motioned.
Councilman Godwin,
We would need to add it. We passed the we passed unanimously, so at this point, we need a 2/3 vote to pass the amended version of CPO 2020-24. Is there a motion to pass 2020-24 as amended?
Make a motion for passage for 2020-24.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Atkins. Any question or discussion?
Mr. President, I'm sorry.
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
There was one thing that I didn't note here on the back here, and this is like Attorney Lay watching everything. Where it says right here,
Councilman Brewer?
where it talks about the approved signature in the bottom. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Councilman Brewer.
So where the approved signature is at the bottom, it's always continuous where it says the mayor. Here it just have Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Indiana. I just want to make sure that we're doing everything like we always do and nothing is switching up.
So what I will say is that on the previous motion to implement a 12-month reviewable conditional approval, the matter is also amended to insert the word mayor between the comma after Prince and the word city in the signature block of the said ordinance. So you're moving the aforementioned, Councilman Brewer?
Yes.
And is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Atkins to make the aforementioned amendments to the ordinance. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk. This one we're voting on the amendment. Just to be clear, we've changed the amendment. We're voting on the amendment.
Councilman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yeah.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
The vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-24 is amended as most previously motioned. At this point, we need to, this is.
I'm just now being unmuted. Is it possible I could just?
Councilman Williams.
Is it possible I could just
Councilman
be
Williams is correct. That you can be what?
left unmuted? I'm just now
So
getting
ITT
unmuted.
Okay,
Like-
Councilman Williams has been muted and unable to unmute himself. So IT department is going to take that. Excuse me? Is that to talk to make sure you're able to be heard?
I'm sorry?
Councilman Williams, did we hear him? We hear you. Thank you, point well taken. Sorry for the technological problem. So now we need to have a 2/3 majority to pass this measure as amended. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2020-24 as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilwoman Atkins and seconded by Councilman Brewer. Any question or discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay is recognized.
first do the unanimous vote. We've never done that. Of the member, we must now have a unanimous vote.
Deputy Clerk, can you clarify? I thought we already did the unanimous vote to add it to the agenda for third and final, but if I'm wrong, I certainly stand corrected.
You amended it. Therefore,
No, we initially added it to the agenda for third and final reading. I just want to make sure we did that. Deputy Clerk Reynolds?
Yes. There
So
was
did
a
we continue?
on all three readings.
So there was a unanimous vote to pass, to consider CPO 2020-24 on all three readings.
Yes.
Okay, and then we then just most previously voted to amend CPO 24, and I believe that was unanimous as well. Not that it had to be, but that was unanimous.
Yes.
Any further questions, Councilman Lay?
no, that's such a technical problem. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so let's proceed with the vote for passing CPO 2020-24 as amended on all three readings. It's been motioned already by Councilwoman Atkins, seconded by Councilman Brewer. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-24 as amended passes unanimously and is so ordered.
Mr. President, ends pending ordinances and resolutions on second reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now we've reached the point where we will have the mayor's report. Is Mayor Prince on the line, or is Attorney Colvin providing the update?
I don't have a
Attorney
report.
Colvin,
Mr. Chair.
what'd you say? Oh,
Mr.
okay,
Chair.
Mayor Prince is recognized. Yes,
Sure, my
sir.
apologies, Mr. Chair. I was actually finishing up a call with the governor relative to COVID-19, but thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. And
Thank
thanks
you.
to the members of the Common Council that are present also, as well as any residents that may be viewing us through any of the multiple mediums that we've been able to establish over the last few months. I especially want to commend the IT team as well as this council for having the wherewithal to facilitate a meeting so quickly, especially during these uncertain times. Thank you all. And on behalf of all the citizens, I want to say thank you as well. As you all are all aware that as an administration, we try to provide daily updates for everyone with general information relative to COVID, as well as measures that we're taking as a city to help stop the spread and to provide the necessary resources in order to address it. In addition, we continue to urge people to practice social distancing. I think everyone is aware now that all the scientists and the data and evidence suggest that it's the proper and appropriate thing to do. But here locally, we've had individuals to review our data, and the suggestions is that we certainly, if not the second, we're really close to being the second epicenter here in Indiana in terms of cases reported relative to testing. As you all know, or may not know, perhaps I should say it like that, that testing has been an issue in Northwest Indiana for quite some time here. In fact, I recall the first mention of the coronavirus at a public meeting at the very first meeting, I believe it was in March. And at that time, Dr. Walker was ordered to, or directed rather, to communicate with the state health department as well as the CDC and all of our healthcare providers, in addition to the federally qualified healthcare providers in addition to that. The point that I make, Mr. Chair and members of the council, is because of that speedy recognition that at the very minimum, we had a responsibility to be able to share information with the public, that today we feel that although things continue to escalate in terms of the community, we feel that we are prepared to continue to address it, all the way to the point that there's been a little bit of pre-planning, or at least anticipation of there being a lack of medical facilities in order to treat the COVID and regular medical cases. And to that end, along with the Army Corps of Engineers, State of Indiana, the Governor's Office, as well as the National Guard, we're looking at the possibility of establishing 2 more facilities here. Lastly, on the COVID virus, Dr. Walker continues to establish, or try to establish, or look for resources to establish a drive-up testing site here in the city. And that would be for regular people. But let me be clear that any testing site that exists now, or that may exist within the immediate future, will only be for persons who have received a doctor's order to go get tested. But I'll keep you, as well as the citizens, continually updated on the developments there as we continue to move through this. But I certainly want to thank everyone for their efforts in encouraging our constituents to practice responsible social distancing, and thank you all for trying to remain safe. As a reminder, City Hall will remain closed for the next at least 2 weeks per the governor's executive order. While that's going on, there will be personnel present in the building, and the building will and can be open for personnel who need to ingress or egress. I want to mention the census. As you all know, April 1st was Census Day. And the point is that if ever there was an opportune time to compel folks to do it, it would be now. For one, we certainly have more time than we've typically had within the last year on our hands. But secondly, I think this COVID situation that we deal with certainly provides the opportunity for us to make a correlation between the count and the amount of funds that we receive, whether it be through federal resources or grants, or specifically make the case that any COVID-related items that we incur now, certainly, hopefully in the event, will be able to be recuperated. But the point is that there are a lot of folks who are less fortunate than others, and who find themselves out of employment and lacking resources. And a correct and accurate count in this census data will certainly help to ensure that additional resources are available to help our constituents. Lastly, Mr. Chair, and I really appreciate your patience here, I'd like to discuss an action that the Finance Committee initiated and that this body confirmed this evening. and that was to send, I believe it's CPO 2012 back to committee. Today is my 98th day in office, and in some regards, Mr. Chair, this body is actually impeding this administration's ability to fully function in several ways. One of the first ways would be that essentially you are mandating who, or at least attempting to mandate who this administration employs. I believe that and I'm certain that this is absolutely a function of this body, at least the rationale for one of the persons who we've discussed, and that being the Director of Communications. The rationale that I have heard up to this point certainly doesn't rise to the level of being substantial enough to keep this administration from employing this gentleman under contract and being able to deliver the message that we work so hard to make sure is clear and accurate and consistent, not only for our constituents, but certainly for this body as well. Secondly, by doing so, we're effectively denying a prescribed compensation for an employee who, in my opinion, has stepped up to the plate to fill multiple responsibilities. This body, or at least a number of them, having passed the last budget, understand the shortages and the deficiencies that exist. And in a situation where we have a person who has willingly stepped to the plate and is performing that job on a daily basis very effectively, and in essence allowing us to realize some enhancements in service and certainly keeping up to speed, I believe that gentleman needs to be compensated as the ordinance prescribes. Lastly, everything that I've said relative to this ultimately results in this administration being stymied to implement the desired progress, not only for the administration, but certainly for the residents of the city of Gary. And I would certainly hope that this council would revisit its decision relative to the employees that the administration have advanced to you, and that we could all collectively get together and continue to work on this COVID situation, as well as all the myriad of other issues that we have in the city. Thank you so patiently listening, Mr. Chair, members of the body, and I'll stand by.
Sorry about that. What I was saying is that I wanted to thank both the mayor and the health commissioner and his entire team for doing a great job in terms of the COVID-19 response. I know that it is a tremendous challenge for the city. I did have some questions, and I wanted to respond to the mayor's concern he raised about the notion of the council impeding government. And I want to be clear that, as I have indicated to the mayor, sorry about that. What I that indicated to the mayor with 99% agree with 99%, 95% of the realignment that's been proposed. My concern, and I think other council members' concern, that was expressed during the finance committee meeting. I think there is a delay of some kind.
Okay.
So what I'll do is just continue, and I'm sorry for the delay that is happening. But in any event, I agree, and I think the vast majority of the council members, just simply from what I've heard in public meetings, I have no problem with the vast majority of the realignment proposal. And I haven't heard anybody really question any aspect of it but one part. And of course, in government, we see that even on the national level. All right, I think we're on. Are we on? Again, I want to apologize to the public. We're doing our best. We had a technological glitch, but I was responding to the mayor's report, and I was thanking the mayor and the health department commissioner, Dr. Roland Walker, who've done an exceptional job collectively, this administration, in responding to COVID-19. I certainly appreciate the letter that was sent to the governor and keeping the public informed. So definitely appreciate the administration for that. As it relates to the comments that were made indicating or suggesting that this body is impeding the ability of the administration to move forward, I'm sure I won't be the only one to respond. but I certainly wanted to offer a response. Number one, I agree, and I think most people agree, purely based on what I have heard in the public meetings, the various committee meetings where this has been discussed, most people agree with the overwhelming majority of the realignment. And as the mayor indicated, there's only one item where there have been concerns raised. And I raised those concerns because what we're being asked to do, just for the general public's knowledge, is to take what is currently a salaried position that falls under our residency ordinance. That is to say, it's a position where someone who we pay with our Gary tax dollars has to live in the city of Gary, like all of us council persons do, and obviously many of you, the constituents, the voters, the taxpayers of this city. That position pays $75,000. And I think a lot of us are seeing that the unemployment phone lines are crashing in this state and a lot of states. And I'm sure that most of us know that the unemployment rate in the city of Gary is enormous. The median income hovers around $15,000 or $16,000 a year. Our population has declined mightily over the last 30 to 40 years. We have about 6,000 parcels of real estate that are owned by the city. Our property tax collection rate hovers between 33 and 37% annually. And so it's hard for me as a resident who sees all of this and as someone who's been elected to represent the best interest of this city to endorse moving a salaried position where the person is required to live in the city to a contractual position where in this case, the person lives in Lake Station. I have nothing against Lake Station, but I prefer that person be in compliance with our residency ordinance and be a citizen that's giving back to, contributing to, living in, and invested in the city. Furthermore, that particular individual and his business doesn't even have a physical location in this city. That business does not even have a business license with the city of Gary. Furthermore, the contract that was agreed to, I suppose retroactively, to begin January 1 of this year and to go through June 30th, has a January 1 effective date. However, the business that we're talking about was created on Sunday, January the 5th. So it appears to me that, and there's a lot of other problems with that contract that I'm sure others may acknowledge. I say all that to say this. Right now, we are sending tens of millions of dollars to Hammond, to Lake Station, to Merrillville, to Hobart every year, while our city literally crashes economically. And even more so with what is going on now, which has troubled many businesses. It's hard for me to say that I want to support our city spokesperson, Director of Communications, to not live in the city of Gary. I have no doubt that perhaps he has been a vital member of your team and has done a good job, but I'd like for him to join the rest of us and live here and invest here and be part of this city. That is my objection. I don't like the slippery slope of us moving these positions from salaried positions where you have to live in the city to contractual positions where you can live anywhere. We're already sending millions of dollars every year in salary payments to other cities, to their benefit, not to ours. Some of that, honestly, we can't control because they don't fall under our residency ordinance. That's my objection to it. So other members may also want to speak to this issue. Councilman Lay is recognized.
Mr. President, my concern goes directly to the contractual agreement that has been set up. Apparently, the Board of Works has created a department of communication for a person under the contract should be an advisor. That simply, they need our approval to do that. They don't appear to be asking us to do it as a council. They also sent a request for review. It's almost impossible to read it. It's clear they're violating paragraph 13 of the contract. I've looked at everything else. It appears they are following it. It would seem to me that I've been informed that they're talking about moving $45,000 to equipment. We have an outline of what this equipment is going to be. The council in 2019 did not pass anything for this equipment. So I think there's several things need to be done. There's no need to rush it. I do not believe they can create a department. I do not believe this advisor can create his own letterhead. And certainly I object to sending money, although it didn't come off, to the communication department. He also is using staff in the community. I'm not sure where Miss Carpenter, Gloria Carpenter is, but he appears to be using her. But again, I object to the Board of Works creating a position. They could make it deputy mayor if they have that authority. They just do anything they wanted to do. I think they would have to come forward to the council to create that department. We have to create the law. That is clear in the law. The executive branch can only recommend. I do not believe there's been any recommendation concerning Mr. Gonzalez. Again, I think it has to come forward, and certainly we have a right. And some of this was very difficult to read in the contract itself, which is not a major thing. Mr. Jenkins, who is not a party to the contract, initialed the contract. It was only two people. That was for the works and the advisor, which is still Shores Media Inc. Again, in addition to some of the things you have said, I believe the problem with me is creating a. I don't think they can do it, and I object to that. And any money equipment, I believe they should give us details of what equipment they're buying. We just don't arbitrarily give them $45,000 to buy equipment. I mean, they have to tell us exactly what they're buying. Give us a layout of what equipment they're buying, when they're going to buy this equipment. I believe we basically will sell a lot of this in the finance committee, and I certainly would speak when you said 99%. I'm talking about 99% group. I agree with you. I'm not objecting to what the mayor's asking us, but I certainly object to a yellow and black letterhead being created where that is directed. And I would, again, I would object to anyone doing it. So it's not just Gonzalez. We do not certainly have the best relationship. I'll be honest about that. There's several reasons we don't have it too. But I don't have to bring those up. I would object to anyone doing that. Mayor decided to create a deputy mayor. He has to have our approval. He can't just go off and do it on his own. And the Board of Works has certainly less authority than the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilman Lay. Did I hear from someone else? Other members of the council, questions for the administration? Or comments?
Mr. Chair?
The mayor is recognized.
So, yeah, I didn't anticipate that we would resolve this issue this evening. I just wanted to point out, clearly we have a difference of opinion here, but unfortunately, I couldn't hear most of what the councilman said, and so therefore I'm unable to reply.
Okay, that's understandable. And hopefully at our finance committee meeting, keeping our 6 feet distance, more of us will be able to come. We can last, but I think that will help us. This is really challenging to do this with most members not physically here. So I think the only other question I had for the mayor, I know that some cities have recognized that this COVID-19 is going to have an economic impact on their budgets. That is to say, while our property tax collection rate is already unacceptably low, do we anticipate the fact that the treasurer has extended the deadline to pay? Will that have a negative impact on our ability to function? If funds are coming in slower than usual and maybe even less than usual if for some reason people are not paying their property taxes.
Mr. Chair.
Mayor is recognized.
Thank you for the question and the opportunity to answer. Ironically, right before this meeting, I was on the phone with the Lake County Treasurer. So the short answer is no, there will not be an impediment for us. And the mechanism by which we would do that would be in advance if we need that. And so the Treasurer's agreed, and that will be able to be facilitated.
Perfect. Thank you. And the only other thing, I think you and I actually talked about this, is the casinos being closed. Now, I know that historically we've only, correct me if I'm wrong, gotten the minimum of about $6 million because the performance has not been to the level that would justify a higher amount. However, I don't know whether there's any force majeure or any other clause in their agreement with us that, depending on how long this goes on, I'm sure they've experienced tremendous financial losses over the past 3 weeks and over the next potentially 2, 3, or 4 weeks. And so I just wanted to make sure that we could still expect our same amount of money to come from the casino fund, because I know Michigan City, for example, has had to make some modifications because their casino is not performing as well as they had hoped. So I think we're probably safe at the $6 million or so mark, but I didn't know whether there was anything in that agreement that would give them the ability to pay less should there be some extraordinary event.
So, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mayor.
So to this date, there's been no discussion around that. And so we certainly can expect our specific draw. However, Corporation Counsel is looking into the contract to see if there, in fact, are any provisions that deal with a situation like this. As you pointed out, it's certainly new to everyone, and no one anticipated this. But to that extent, the Corporation Counsel is certainly reviewing that, and we will advise of the same.
Thank you. Any questions? I believe Councilwoman Atkins, her system, we're having some challenges here in the chamber, went off, but she wanted to follow up specifically on whether we had received we had requested, I believe at the last Finance Committee meeting, to get the list of registered businesses that are in each of our districts so that we could, more especially reach out to them, know who they are. Some of us are interested in that. So I know everything's gone crazy since then, so we certainly understand, but want to follow up on that request. And was there another?
Mr. President.
Just 1 second. Gotcha. And I think we got part of that. The other part that Councilwoman Atkins reminded me of was the residency list. And I'll share that I did get that from the Human Resources Director. And it lists, of course, and I want to clarify that the residency ordinance, it doesn't matter whether you're part of full-time, doesn't matter whether you're a department head or not, the ordinance is silent on that. It only excludes the Corporation Counsel by state statute. And of course, I'm so happy that Attorney McCain is a resident of the 1st District. And of course, the fire chief and the fire department firefighters, as well as the chief of police and the police officers are exempt by state statute. But otherwise, everyone else is included as that ordinance stands. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. President, can you hear me?
Yes, Councilman Weatherspoon is recognized.
Yes, I have a question for the mayor. Mayor, just wondering to date, what is the number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the city of Gary? And secondly, I would like to ask, is this coming Sunday? I've heard that there are some churches that do plan to have service for Easter Sunday. Are there any plans that the administration has with enforcement, anything so far as deterring that kind of activity?
So first question, confirmed COVID cases in Gary are at 96 now, and there are 3 confirmed deaths. To your second question, yeah, it appears at least one church that I know of is planning on having service. And to that extent, I'm in discussions with the police chief and the sheriff, as well as the state, in terms of trying to come up with a rational and an appropriate course of action. So we'll see.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members of the council?
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
thank you, and thank you, Mayor, for being with us on tonight, and thank you for what you and your team continue to do in this pandemic that we're having throughout the United States and really throughout this world here, pretty much. With the weather getting ready to warm up, are we looking to enforce a curfew in place? With today being 75 plus degrees today, we've seen quite a few people out, and social distancing was not happening in a lot of places that I went to, was not happening. And I don't want to see us in the next 2 weeks where this thing can go longer than what we needed to go, because we are seeing our numbers starting to come up. And you have stated earlier about us not having enough testing kits here to do what we need to do as far as testing people.
So, Councilman, I think that's a legitimate question. It's something that I spoke with Corporation Counsel about over the weekend, told him to explore, what latitude we have in terms of establishing a curfew if we deem it necessary to go to that. But at this particular point, there is no specific plan to initiate a curfew, and we take it on a day-by-day basis and sort of follow the trends. Because, Councilman, I tell you, in terms of a curfew, there's two different perspectives there. There's obviously the one for COVID, but simultaneously things that occurred before this COVID-19 continue to occur. And so
yes.
That consideration of a curfew is twofold. But like the other question that was asked in terms of appropriate action, I'll just say that all of the appropriate and proper entities are collectively considering that. And when we get to the point that we'll make a decision, before it's done, we'll certainly share the ultimate decision of that collective body with the council.
Okay. And I just received a text probably about 20 or 30 minutes ago as we was doing a broadcast in the council meeting about price gouging that's taking place, and County Market was one of the ones that came up inside of the text. I was just wondering if we can have someone from the building department to just do some investigation on that also. But it's definitely not the time for that.
That would be code enforcement.
Well, whoever it is,
Mr. President.
Councilman Lay is recognized.
I think the only rational thing, if a church is talking about doing that, shut them down. In other words, that would prove harmful to this entire community. So
yep.
I don't see anything to even discuss. In other words, they're supposed to stay at safe distance. My particular church, and most of them are streaming the service. We're going to bring all of these people together inside of a church. I think they should stop, period. Because once they leave the church, they eventually amongst citizens of this community.
I want to give the Corporation Counsel an opportunity to respond. Attorney McCain.
I was going to say one other, the needs of the many outweigh the few, and certainly the one. So we should stop it. Just stop it.
I agree with you. Attorney McCain.
Mr. Chairman, can you repeat the councilman's question? He wasn't very audible on this end anyway.
Oh, okay. So you're referring to Councilman Lay?
Yes.
Okay. Councilman Lay was saying that this is really, an issue where the interests of the many outweigh the interests of the few, basically. And that if a church is basically violating state and or local ordinances as it relates to public gatherings, there simply is no question. We should just, enforce the law. I hope I quoted or at least summarized Councilman Lade correctly, or I'll be getting a call tonight.
Oh, that's close.
That's the essence.
Yeah, so fundamentally, we agree with the council, but again, it's not something that you just want to hastily approach, and so we're just applying a little thought to it and collaborating with the other entities. Certainly, it's the governor's executive order and the location itself that I'm speaking. Well, I won't get into that because I don't want to demean anyone. I think most of us know who I'm speaking of, but for the purposes of this discussion, I'll leave that part, the last part out. Thank you.
Sounds good. Okay, Corporation Counsel McCain has been very patient.
Of course, sir. Thank you very much for your patience and for your running of this program. Mr. Chair, I'd like to address the issue of price gouging. The Indiana Attorney General is prepared to accept any complaints in their Consumer Complaints Division with respect to price gouging. There have been several complaints. I believe the number as of last week was around 14 thus far during this COVID-19 crisis. And we encourage citizens who feel they have been subjected to price gouging to reach out to the Indiana Attorney General's Office, Consumer Protection Division. There is a 1-800 number that they can dial. They can look that information up online, and we will also post that on the mayor's website as well with respect to that number so they can report price gouging.
Thank you, Attorney McCain. And that's good. I know I got calls as well, at least one call about the grocery store in my district as it relates to price gouging. So thank you all for following up on that.
Mr. President.
I think that's Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes, Attorney McCain, could you make sure that they also put that information on the public access channel as well?
Yes, sir. Councilman Weatherspoon, I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion for the administration?
Yes, President Godwin.
Councilman Brewer.
This is for the mayor. I just want to know, is general service working every day? Are they part of the essentials that's working?
Mayor Prince.
Yes, I'm right here. I'm sorry, I missed the question.
So I was just asking, was any of the general service department, are they working, are they part of the essentials that's working on a daily basis?
There are some of them that are working. Most of them are on a on-call basis, but we're actually looking at redeploying them as well as the recycling employees to use them a little bit more effectively in areas to begin some of our cleanup.
Well, can I just make one suggestion? I know we're practicing social distancing. If we can possibly split them up into 2 shifts, because I know in the future, not the future, but the past, what I have seen is we talk about equipment, that we don't have enough equipment, but then I turn around and see 4 guys going around in the truck and only 2 guys can work because that's all the equipment they have. And we have tried at the end of last year, but I don't know what happened to that. But possibly splitting them up into 2 shifts, that way we can cover more ground in the cleanup efforts, because we all know our city desperately needs those to be happening at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, Councilman, we appreciate all certain suggestions and input that we possibly can. But yeah, our goal is always to use the personnel as effectively and efficiently as possible. In fact, we've made a number of changes that existed last year in the previous administrations that have enhanced our ability to do so. So thank you for the input as well.
Thank you. I would just add, and I know the hour is growing late, so please don't, you can't throw things at me. That's the nice thing about it being a teleconference. Other than Councilwoman Atkins, who's here in the chamber, I just wanted to lastly say this. I am concerned, I know in my district, and I'm sure in a lot of districts, a lot of our small businesses, you know, U.S. Steel, Indiana Sugars, the large trucking companies, they're working, or they will more easily recover. They have the reserves to do it. But a lot of our businesses that are 1, 2, and 3 years old, especially in the hospitality, restaurant, retail space, are going to suffer. They're already suffering tremendously. One thing I would love for the administration to consider, I know we have very limited funds, but there are dollars that we do move around, right? There is a request to buy equipment as part of the media fund changes. And I know we can't do an extraordinary amount of things, but if the administration could consider, and I'd be willing to co-sponsor legislation, or as the case may be, a small business relief fund, even if it's $30,000, and out of that, business owners who have a Gary business license and have been in existence for at least 12 months prior to the governor's shutdown order would be able to apply for assistance, even if it's a $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 grant to pay rent, to pay their employees. I know the federal government is doing certain things, but that's going to be very hard for a lot of business owners, and it could be a long wait. And so whenever this crisis is over, which I hope is sooner rather than later, I hope that we are able to have businesses to exist in many of our neighborhoods and across our cities. So I would just encourage the administration, as we're thinking about the moving around the funds, to consider a small business relief fund where, as I said earlier, folks can apply to get assistance. I don't know if there's any response to that idea, but I'm just putting it out there. Any other council members? Questions for the administration? I don't see any. What I want to do is thank everyone for participating. This has been a tour de force, and the IT and media team have assured me that they are going to, this is all being recorded, even though it may have gone on and off of Channel 4, as well as on and off of Facebook and various other media outlets. It has all been recorded here in the council chambers. And they have assured me, I'm looking at them, and they're giving me 2 thumbs up, that they will combine all the total meeting into a whole, into a unique whole that can be distributed via Channel 4. It can be sent out on Facebook as a video, because we certainly want the communication to be continuous and useful to the public. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So I want to thank the media and IT team doing that and getting that out, hopefully by tomorrow or as soon as possible. I got another 2 thumbs up. So thank you all for that. Okay, so I am going to entertain a motion to dismiss.
So moved, Chair.
It's been moved. We stand adjourned.